everyone, my name is Aspen Dudzic and I am your host for Forestry Talks, a podcast that explores all things forestry in Alberta. I'm here today at the beautiful Fairmont Jasper Park Lodge in Jasper, Alberta, and we're here to celebrate our annual general meeting and conference for the Alberta Forest Products Association. I've got some great guests that are going to join me for the show this week. You're going to love them. I can't wait to share them with you. Hey everyone, I am so thrilled to have Cal Dakin with me, the Director of Innovation and Woodlands at Mercer Peace River. Cal, how are you doing today?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm so thrilled to have you on my show. You were just sharing with me a little bit before this that this role is actually new for you. It's been 3 weeks, you said?
Yeah, so just moved into this role. I was asked to kind of help out doing some more focused stuff on Mercer Peace River, particularly with the Woodlands, but also to maintain the innovation work that I've been doing so far.
Yeah, and I'm so interested to talk a little bit about that. Can you tell me what some of the innovation work that you've been doing at Mercer previously looked like and how that relates to your new role?
Okay, so like on the innovation file, a lot of times my job, because I'm a forester by trade, which really makes you a generalist. The joke that they always make is that a forester can do anything but nothing well.
Oh gosh!
But that's actually an advantage. There's a lot of research out there that shows that if you have a generalist, oftentimes you can go into a group of specialists, and at our mills, you have all these really smart people that are always looking for the opportunity to improve things, but they maybe don't have that, maybe they don't know how to build a business case, or maybe they don't know who to talk to, or how do they work through the government process. Right. So my role is actually to just go and talk to the smart people and say, oh, okay, hey, what does that look like? And how can I help you with that? And really chart a course where they can actually escalate a project and put it into more of that, business lingo and be able to put forward those proposals and get their voice heard. So oftentimes innovation is about being able to have that compelling narrative that's backed in good research, good data, good science, and then being able to bring that forward so people can say, oh, I can see that vision. Yeah. And then you can actually make something happen out of it. So that really is my innovation work. It's not me. I'm certainly not that clever.
Oh, Cal, I think you should give yourself some more credit.
No, but it's being able to bring and talk to other people and to get their ideas brought forward. Innovation is, it's an iterative process, and you need so many different people. So really, that's the exciting part is talking to people and getting their ideas and then crafting that narrative.
Yeah. I'm, super excited to dig into your vision for innovation kind of moving forward, but something that I'm really excited to talk about, speaking about innovation and forestry really broadly. I mean, we really commonly encounter this misunderstanding that the forest sector is kind of behind the times when it comes to technology, or behind the times when it comes to really, any of these exciting topics that the world is challenging all industries with. When you started out as a forester, did you know that this is where your career was going? Did you have a thirst for this type of work?
Well, so I started with the government, and I spent 10 years there, but my focus was really around planning. And, if you're a planner, it's always about looking ahead. Where are you going? How can you get there? And then I moved into industry, and it was really a planning focus again. So, with me, it's when you would hear an idea and you'd go, oh, okay. What is the pathway to get there? Because often there's so many good ideas out there. Yeah. But without a pathway, I need to get a permit here, and I need to, bring on these stakeholders and get their support, and I need to get some funding over here. Without planning, without actually doing that process, so many good ideas never see the light of day. Right? So right from day one, I was a planner. I never thought I'd end up necessarily in this innovation area, but it was kind of a natural extension of being a planner. Yeah, absolutely. And so this summer, I was really lucky with a couple of my team members from AFPA to join you in Peace River for a tour of your facility and learn a little bit about some of the operations there. There was a really exciting new wood room, and we got to hear a little bit about some of the innovation opportunities or the exciting projects that you've got your mind to. And do you want to talk a little bit about some of those? Sure. So, like you had mentioned earlier, like we get this image that the forest industry isn't being innovative. That would be from people that haven't toured modern facilities.
Absolutely.
So, whether it's sawmills that are working to make sure that they've maximized their throughput by capturing the absolute best value for that log, and there's different business models that do that. Or you come into pulp mills where you're trying to find different ways to reduce your environmental impact while at the same time producing more product, but then also taking all those derivatives from what once was considered a waste stream and actually making value added. Like that's really how companies have to survive. So that the modern approach in forestry and in the forest industry is it's a tight, low margin business. You have to pull everything you can out of that value chain. What has changed, over the last number of years that's really provided a renewed focus for us is, of course, decarbonization.
Yeah.
And so with decarbonization, it's bringing around this whole new level of innovation. And as we look towards, whether it's, being net zero by 2050 and all of those intensity target reductions in between, that's driving another wave of innovation and different approaches to doing things. And the way I like looking at innovation, so a lot of times when you're working on a decarbonization project, you'll go and say, okay, I want to reduce my intensity of CO2 per ton of pulp produced or per whatever product it is, and you'll go and come up with a project, and the economics don't make sense. But because you're trying to decarbonize, oftentimes you're going to almost, I use the word deadhead it. Like you're just going to spend the money to get the decarbonization. But that's not what the innovation really can be. Is how do you decarbonize at the same time increasing your productivity? How do you maybe capture another product that can actually reduce that? So that's where, it's when I work with the teams is asking those questions about, okay, yes, we need to do this, but do we have to do it that way? What else would we do? And can we do something that's, by cooperating with a partner that we may not have otherwise partnered with? Can we do something different here? So some of the projects that you're looking at is, can you produce more energy from biomass? So, oftentimes you'll have what was traditionally a waste stream. Now you can make green energy.
Incredible.
So how do you not just make green energy? How do you increase the intensity so that you get more green energy per ton of biomass that you're putting in? Well, that's fantastic. Well, then, hey, can you actually capture the carbon from that? What would that look like? And maybe you can go to net negative instead of just net neutral. So working through all of those kind of things, I think is really exciting, and the people at the mills are always so keen to go, hey, well, what about this? And not all ideas are winners, but if you're listening, you can often pick out quite a few gems. Yeah,
it all starts with an idea, right? It all starts somewhere.
Yeah.
I want to walk us back a little bit, just for people that might be starting to grapple with this concept of decarbonization. Can we talk a little bit about what that means and what opportunities there are for the forest industry to be part of a really positive carbon story?
Okay, where to start on that one? So from decarbonization, so anytime you're producing something, almost always you're going to have carbon as, you're producing some carbon, whether it's, running like natural gas in a boiler to produce something. Now, the nice thing about pulp mills in general is it's a giant recycling facility in a lot of respects. So once energy is put into that, it's always captured multiple times. So if you're producing pulp, you're taking all those wood fibers and then you're having lignin and all those other things that are coming off of it. Well, that's getting burnt in the recovery boiler, and that actually allows you to recycle your chemicals. What's interesting though is it's a giant chemical plant. It's a biorefinery. So maybe an additional to pulp. Well, what can you do with that lignin? Is there an ability to make carbon black or something else that could go into tires or plastics that otherwise is being made by petrochemicals, right? So that's really the next wave of what's happening at pulp mills is, and I think actually at most forest companies is how do we take these other derivative products that we create, instead of just burning them, even though that in itself created energy that allowed us to do this, maybe we're pulling out the more valuable ones, methanols and lignins, and using those other products, soaps and tall oils and turpentines. Like there's so many things there that are maybe being produced now by the biochemical industry. Maybe we can produce them naturally from trees.
Absolutely. Yeah. Derek Nyber, I stole this from him. He's got a really great line, President and CEO of the Forest Products Association of Canada. You can get anything from a tree that you can get from a barrel of oil. And the longer that I'm part of this industry, the more I'm like, holy smokes, is that ever the case? I mean, every day we're innovating with cool products like lignin and a lot of this other kind of stuff that you're touching on. I want to talk specifically about maybe some of the examples that you can share where Mercer is scaling up in the decarbonization space.
Yeah, so some of the work we're doing right now, we're upgrading. Our goal is to upgrade one of our generators, and it's actually a power generator. So we have one generator that runs all the processes at the mill. We have another one that just generates power from biomass, and we're going to expand it. So taking it from its current capacity, and we're going to increase it by about 60%. Well, and it uses a lot of the same footprint. So, but what that allows us to do, and this is kind of that positive feedback loop. So once you have extra generating capacity, which can produce green power, which provides base load. So as Jason Cripps was saying, when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing, what's going to provide that green base load? Yeah. So this can provide that green base load, but it's only the first step of that positive feedback. So now you have extra generating capacity. Now, if you want to go do a steam saving project, or if you want to do save some more natural gas, you actually can put that through into green power. So you have this positive feedback loop where you'll be able to monetize more environmental improvements. If you didn't have that generator there, if you didn't have that place to put that extra steam, a lot of times it just gets vented out the stack, right? So it's getting those opportunities to reinvest and then kind of to move forward there. So that's a big project that we're moving forward with. And then we want to look at, the whole industry is looking at this as well, as well. What's some of the battery technology that we can do? So, so if you look at solar and wind, it's really produces mostly during the day. Well, maybe because we should be storing our energy, our green energy during the day in batteries, and then releasing more of it to provide more of that base load in the evenings. So I know a lot of the industry is looking at different battery technology, and from an innovation standpoint, battery technology is growing extremely fast, and there's so many different approaches. So there's a great opportunity to apply that. One thing that I want to talk about that I think is important is, the governments, both provincially and federally, have been very supportive of decarbonization initiatives. And that's really important, and it's very helpful. And the reason why is, if you look at on the innovation front, not all of them are winners. Right. Like there's a lot of
trial
them.
And error.
Yeah, but trial and error can be very expensive. So how do you de-risk? How do you de-risk that so that if you are being the first to market, or you're doing pilot plants and you're trying out these technologies, which is really essential, so that they can be commoditized and then really pull out more carbon. But if you're the first in line, or the first for your industry in your application, it can be very challenging, and it can be very expensive and very risky. And so there's something that that it's just fantastic that, both provincially and federally, there's been a lot of support for this, and not just financial support, but like an excitement and an enthusiasm of supporting the industry and enabling us to make that next step forward. And so I think a lot of times, the government, they get beat up, but in this space, I think they're doing a really good job of enabling us to make those innovation leaps and helping us de-risk on these new technologies.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really exciting. And Cal, I'm glad you touched on that. Something that I want to explore with you, I think what's really cool about Mercer is that you are an international company. So you're not just in Alberta, you're not just in Canada, but you've got, kind of operations going in other parts of the world. And so with that, you have a little bit more of a global perspective of some of these opportunities. How do you think that's enabled you in Mercer Peace River and in other parts of the company to really think about some of these more forward-thinking initiatives?
I think that's a fantastic question because, a lot of times you can get a little myopic or a little bit focused on just what's around you, and you don't necessarily see the same pressures. So, we have several facilities in Germany, and if you're aware of what's going on in Germany, I mean, it's one of their hottest. It's the hottest year on record.
Oh, wow.
And so there's as far as climate change and climate change legislation, they could be 15, 20 years ahead of us in the expectations. And so when we work with our German colleagues, a lot of times they're like, no, you don't have, you can't wait on this. You really need to understand that you need to move forward with this. And here's, so there's some opportunities that we're looking at going, I don't see how that's going to be economically viable, or I don't know how we can get there. And then they'll be saying no. And then you can see their context that they're working in, both socially and from a business perspective. And you're going, okay, now that I understand that, okay, maybe we can actually get a little bit ahead of this, take those ideas, see some of the research they've done and apply it here. So it just gives you a different lens to look at things, and more than a lens, very sharp business people that are saying, hey, you really need to consider this now. You can't wait 10 years. And that really drives a lot of our innovation approach is, we're looking there, we're seeing their technologies, we're going, wow, this is pretty imminent based on what you're seeing. We don't see those legislation pressures now, but they could be coming.
Absolutely. Yeah. How do you because you get to be part of some really cool, I guess, global conversations about some of these topics like sustainability and innovation. How do you take that global vision and then bring it back to Mercer Peace River or, some of these other operations in Alberta or Canada?
Well, I would go back to, being a planner. It's understanding what those are and then actually trying to schedule out that pathway into reasonable steps that you can actually see it coming through to fruition. A lot of times I've seen when you can have an idea or a concept, you want to make it happen, but really it's often talk, right? Like it's a nice concept. You're going, hey, this is great. But if you can't find a way to go and say, you know what, how do I be there in 3 years or 5 years? And then how do I work my way backwards? So a lot of those conversations, that's where it leads to is, okay, now here we have to actually take this and plan this out, and communication is a really key part of that. You hear the messaging corporately, you hear what's going on globally, and say, okay, I've heard that. Work with the team, put together a plan, and saying, hey, here's all the pieces. Here's the narrative or the story, but it can't be just a story. Here's the practical approach that's going to result in us getting there. Here's how we de-risk this. Here's how we bring the stakeholders in. Here's the engineering that we've checked and checked again. Yeah. And so that we can validate that. Because what you don't want to do is in innovation space, picking wrong can really erode your ability to move forward. You're going to make mistakes in innovation, but don't make expensive ones. Yep. Yeah. Right? Like make your mistakes early in the planning phase. Right. Don't make it once you've initiated a project, right? Really vet it, really test it, really make sure that you're ready that this is the one and that it fits your business model and it fits your environment, and then move forward. Yeah, so then you can have success. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Cal, I'm really curious, what are some of the questions that you get maybe on the ground in the operations when you're trying to generate buy-in for some of these maybe crazier ideas throughout the company? Well, for starters, I wouldn't say there's any crazy ones. All right, right. I think that there's ones where, because everybody understands where our goals are. Is we want to be able to decarbonize. We want to be able to diversify our product streams. We want to be able to work with our stakeholders and Indigenous stakeholders. But how is it that you get buy-in? a lot of times it's really about being systematic. And I really try to be very systematic. Is okay, here's the idea. How do we test that?
Yeah.
Right. And who's our independent validation that we can get to test that? Who are all those other sources? And so by coming and then really coming back with a communication of here's where we're going, here's our long-term vision, here's how this helps us get there, and here's how in time and where we would be able to position that to move forward. And so when you can bring it into those practical terms, that often brings your buy-in.
Yeah.
Right. If you just come in with a outlandish idea with no real pathway to get there, or no funding and not de-risked, you're not going to get the buy-in. Right. The other thing I think that's critical about the buy-in is you can't go and force innovation on people. It does not work. Right. So innovation is about working with people and empowering them and their ideas, and then giving them the tools and the support so that they can carry it forward. Like it's like, and so you have to really, it's not about me with the director of innovation, right? Like, it's about, hey, how do we bring your idea, your team's idea, and make sure that they've got that buy-in right from the bottom, on the floor, as they call it. Like, how do you have them saying, hey, they're listening. This is my project. I get to bring something forward.
Yeah.
That's where it works, right?
That's awesome.
If you try and force it from the top down, often you're going to miss it because you're not going to understand on the site, on there, does it work? Does it fit? Whereas if you can say, well, here's a concept, does this work? And you get everybody go, well, you might not try, you want to try this a little bit or do this a little bit differently. That to me, the exciting part is two parts I would say is, one is getting the team on board. To me is very exciting, right? Like if you can get that organic push that everybody goes, hey, I'm bought on and I want to go this. So I really like that.
Yeah, and that's where the magic is.
Yes. Well, but the second part is, can you get to, and it's a terrible term, but can you execute?
Right.
Can you make that project happen?
Yeah.
Can you have it delivered on time and on cost? And have you done your planning phase right, where you've really de-risked it? Because so many innovation projects, they're mothballed before they're finished.
Right.
And that's not good. And so that combination, though, of bringing the people that really know how to implement it on board, and then providing that, that structure and approach, that's what I think leads to good execution of innovative project.
Awesome. Those sound great. Cal, with your experience working in innovation and some of these big ideas at Mercer, what's something that you have learned in your journey that you wish you knew when you started?
Well, that's interesting because when I started, I started as a forester, actually forest tech. Then I went back and got a degree in forest management, and I just loved the forest. And I actually had this attitude, and if people ask me, I thought business. I shouldn't have to think about business. My job is to think about managing the forest and doing it regardless of what it costs. I want to think about how the forest should be run and just do it right. And I put that in air quotes. I don't even know if people do air quotes anymore, but anyway.
I think so.
Okay, so but then I went back and got a business degree because it was like it was real epiphany. Like, it was just an amazing opportunity. It's like, oh, if you really want to do these things in forest management, do good forest management, you have to have that business context.
Right.
It's never devoid of the business context, but business doesn't have to be the big bad, it's forcing you to make bad decisions all the time. Quite the contrary is good business drives great decisions.
Right.
Right. So, and it's all about creating value. And so it's changing your mindset from maybe grabbing that little bit of, hey, I want to grab my portion of the pie, as they say, instead to saying, how do we create more opportunity?
Yeah.
How is it that if we thought about this differently, maybe there's a different value stream, or maybe there's a new partnership that create more value from the same number of trees. Or if we approach this differently, maybe we can do ecological management more economically because actually it results in less roads and less infrastructure. So there's innovation from a project perspective, but there's also innovation that's driven by really good business principles that will actually help you with your decision making that enables positive feedbacks.
Yeah, I think it's really unique. I love how you're able to kind of bring those two sides of your experience and your knowledge together to work in this really cool space. My last question for you, what has you excited about decarbonization in the next 5 years?
So I think that, we're right on decarbonization. This is a great opportunity for the forest industry, and in particular, with whether it's biofuels or bioenergy. If the forest fires that we've seen this year have shown us is that, there's these massive forest fires that are going to occur. Whereas if we have good forest management that occurs on the landscape, you can actually take some of those products, enables that there's, that you're kind of lowering the fire risk out there, but you might be able to produce biofuels and bioenergy and decarbonize at the same time. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, because some of those technologies are very close, we might even be able to go carbon negative.
Wow.
So I would love to see if we're going to hit our goals by 2050 of being net neutral, I think, the forest industry is actually going to be net negative and pulling down the carbon footprint for the rest of the country.
Wow. Wouldn't that be incredible?
It would.
Oh, I look forward to it. Cal, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything else that you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I don't think so. Thanks for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks for joining me for another episode of Forestry Talks, a podcast that explores all things forestry in Alberta. We've got some more great guests lined up for our AGM this week. Stay tuned for more, and if you're curious to learn even more about forestry in Alberta, check out our website, loveabforest.ca. I'm your host, Aspen Dudzic, and I'll see you next time.
This series is proudly produced by the team at Road 55. Road 55 creates content that connects. For more information, check our website, www.road55.ca.